Hello there, and welcome to a special bonus episode of Gossip Finance, where I am your host, Alacia Singer.
And I'm Duncan Sandlin. How's everybody? How's it going, Lace?
It's going. I mean, it's going so much that we had to throw together a bonus episode for this week because the world's gone crazy.
Oh, yeah. Well, not in a necessarily bad way, but some of it good. But yeah, we'll just dive right in because why not?
Right. When it rains, it pours. So let's just start collecting rain.
Absolutely. So Donald J. Trump, got indicted by the federal court in Miami for the document scandal. For those of you guys who don't know, he took documents, top secret. A lot of them were top secret from the White House, hundreds and hundreds of them. They had to do 3 different warrants to get all of them, most of them back. Some were missing, right? And it was just, and he lied the whole way about it. Lied over and over about having documents and keeping documents, and it was a big deal. So he's been charged, federally charged. We know it's 7 counts. We don't know what all of them are, but we know that they're probably all under the Espionage Act. So we know withholding or unlawfully taking federal documents is going to be one of the charges. Probably obstruction of justice for sure, and I would also bet conspiracy, because he conspired with his lawyers to try and hide all this shit. So anyway, we're gonna look at a little bit of this. Here's the news from Miami, from CBS 4 Miami.
So we are following new developments this morning and the second indictment against former President Donald Trump. Trump is being accused of handling classified information after leaving the Oval Office.
And this morning we're hearing from a former federal prosecutor and one of Trump's attorneys. So let's get to it. CBS News Miami's Jacqueline Quinn joins us live here with, break it down for us, what they have to say.
They talked about this case, but, the president has already, the former president, I should say, has already said that he's innocent. Then we've also heard from his lawyer about this, and what we've learned right now is that the Secret Service is going to be meeting with his staff today to develop a plan. No doubt this is going to impact the area for him to make this appearance in Miami federal court. But it does look like at this point that the former president is going to be indicted twice, and he's expected to make an appearance again on Tuesday to have those charges read against him. Multiple sources have told CBS News that the former president...
So, boom. So he's got 34 felony charges in New York. He's got several federal charges now in Miami federal court. And Georgia, right, Fulton County, the district attorney there is planning on charging him later this summer for trying to tamper with the votes in Georgia for election rigging. He's having a fun summer for Donald. Here's what else is funny. So he gets indicted, and hours later, 2 of his lawyers quit. So this is Politico. Yep, Trump loses 2 lawyers just hours after being indicted. Jim Trusty and John Rowley announced they'd resigned. And these were the initial guys that, when she said we talked to Trump's lawyers, that was them, and they're both gone now. They abruptly resigned from his defense team on Friday, just hours after news broke, and that he and a close aide were indicted on charges relating to their handling of classified documents. Oh, man. So he's in deep shit. So he's got to find... he's just been bleeding through lawyers. How many has he gone through now? Like a couple dozen, right? Just this year? It's been a bunch. But yeah, he's in deep shit. I'll be excited to see what happens with this, because if he gets convicted, he's looking at up to 10 years in prison for this crime. For the ones in New York, they probably just do like house arrest or something like that. But for this one, this is actual prison time. He could do actual prison time for this. We'll see what happens, But here's his Here's his response to the indictments. God, he looks terrible. So yeah, I want to say you could really see his bald spot in this shot. Is that just me? You could see it, can't you?
Yeah.
Oh man.
I do not miss him making that face at us all the time, though.
Oh,
Jeez.
here we go.
Let me guess. Yada yada witch hunt. Blah blah. Not my fault. Innocent, innocent, innocent. Yada yada yada.
Something irrelevant.
Right.
Very sadly, we're a nation in decline, and yet they go after a popular president, a president that got more votes than any sitting president in the history of our country.
Boo.
By far. And did much better the second time in the election than the first. And they go after him on a boxes hoax, just like the Russia hoax and all of the others. This has been going on for 7 years. That they can't stop because it's election interference at the highest level. There's never been anything like what's happened. I'm an innocent man. I'm an innocent person. You saw the Durham report. You saw the Mueller report. It was all a big hoax. You had 2 impeachments, and they lost and we won. And we had tremendous support. But that was a hoax and a scam. And now they're doing it again. It's just a continuation, 7 years, even after I'm out. But it's called election interference. They're trying to destroy a reputation so they can win an election. That's just as bad as doing any of the other things that have been done over the last number of years, and especially during the 2020 election. So I just want to tell you, I'm an innocent man. I did nothing wrong. And we will fight this out just like we've been fighting for 7 years. It would be wonderful if we could devote our full time to making America great again.
But blah blah blah. It wasn't me, Your Honor. It was the one-armed man.
Oh my goodness.
Oh shit. Oh, that's so funny to me. You got. I mean, that's. He knows he's fucked.
And he spent, a solid 2/3 of the time of that clip just talking about how popular he was. Like,
He always does, though. Everybody loves me. I'm the greatest. It's like, yeah, well, we'll see about that in court.
like, I don't believe that's true, but B, again, to what your point is, irrelevant to what just happened, regardless,
Yeah, you're getting smoked either way, buddy. It's too late. It's too late.
Popular people aren't supposed to have legal problems because they're popular. You see, if everybody likes you, that means the law doesn't actually matter, right?
Right. Well, that's part of the problem with this whole thing is it's gone on for so long. And I think he thinks he's helping himself, but it's like when you list all that shit out like he just did, he looks like he's really guilty. So either there's this grand conspiracy where they're just going after him because he's some, I don't know, threat to the system or super genius or something, or, dude, just stop committing crimes. You don't want to be in these problems, don't commit crimes.
True.
With the documents thing even, I mean, Biden had documents, Mike Pence had documents they weren't supposed to have. But you know what they did? They said, oh shit, and they gave them back immediately. They didn't hang on to them and lie about it for, years. Right?
So it's kind of like you teach to children. You're like, it's okay if you make a mistake and you do something wrong even. Or even sometimes you kind of knew you shouldn't be doing it and you did it anyway. But then when somebody comes to you about it, you just need to own it, right? Don't you just need to be like, oh, well, I kind of messed that up. It gets you a little further typically than I didn't do it.
Than lying, yeah.
Here, especially when it becomes really obvious that you did.
Right. Right. Well, that was the thing. Well, we don't have any documents. They get a warrant. They go in there, and there's boxes of them. It's like,
right, again, really obvious. It's not even one of those lies of like nobody will really know that that's the thing that somebody did. So what's the point in saying it? Like it's not even in that category. Like they literally went in and find boxes and boxes of stuff. It was clear. It's super obvious.
well, right. And the other thing that's really, I think, damning, which was the reports that came out before this, were Jack Smith, who's is the special counsel that's doing the prosecution here. Apparently, they got a hold of not just witnesses saying that he knew about it and was personally doing it, that witnessed him physically doing this, but him actually handling documents. They got that apparently on tape. So he can't sit there and say, I didn't know, when we've got you on tape, right? Hi, it's me,
Right.
Donald Trump, stealing your top secret documents. Oh, man. But anyway, we'll see how it goes. I mean, he's looking at serious time. Anyway, we'll move on to this. Oh, so you're in New York. What's the weather like?
Oh my. Okay, so can we have a Lacey's story hour? It won't take an hour.
Okay, go for it.
Lacey's story segment. So, for those of you who haven't quite caught it yet, I am a teacher as well as a personal finance coach and writer, but my full-time day job is as a teacher. And on Wednesday, I was on my lunch period, went down the hall, went into the teacher room where the photocopier and all the mysterious equipment is, right? The lights were off. And it was it was like the end of times walking into that room because there's two sort of windows on the side of it and orange hazy light pouring in through it.
Right.
It really looked like you expect the floor to open up and swallow you
Right.
into, the mouth of hell or whatever the portal is you swallow into in the horror movie.
Right.
So anyway, I have it my responsibility to go into the hallway, grab my co-teacher and a student and drag them in there with me. The student, when I told the student about the hole in the ground idea, she screamed right next to me. It was great.
Because Lacey's like, if I'm going, I'm not going alone. Somebody's coming with me.
I'm taking you two with me. Don't worry, it's not a small child. I'm not terrified of small children. I teach kids that are in high school, so while the screaming was super funny.
Right.
It wasn't like a 7-year-old that needs therapy. But regardless, orange creepy light had to do with the horrible air quality in New York City right now. It's absolutely been atrocious. And really, going outside and commuting home, we had to let all the kids go early. And going outside and commuting home, it was really difficult to take anything more than shallow breaths. It's been really pretty bad here. Yeah,
because these are fires up in Canada, or what's been causing a lot of that.
Right. Yeah, the Canadian wildfires, and it's been so bad here. Thursday, students weren't reporting to school anyway. It was a teacher development day, and all of those were mandated to go remote. And then today we were mandated all to go remote too, because they really didn't want kids and as many adults out commuting in it as possible. It's been bad. It's finally starting to get better. On the index, the numbers getting lower, which is better.
Right.
But it's been pretty bad for a couple of days.
Well, anyway, breathing in all that smoke and ash, not good. I remember we used to get what are called fog warnings when I lived in Hawaii. And that's when the volcano erupts. You get the ash from the volcano. It mixes with all the moisture in the air. And like you said, it's hard to breathe. And most people are wearing masks, so they have the athletic masks with filters. I have one of those, and those things are awesome. But anyway, here's the majority report, and they're going to look at a segment from Fox News where Fox News explains to you maybe it's not so bad.
To highlight this insanity from Laura Ingram's show last night, she spoke to Steve Milloy, who is some crank. I guess
he's a respectable man on the Laura Ingram
Well, he's wearing a tie, not particularly well. Looks a little crooked, but I'm not the.
With the tie, or
I'm not the what's that leftist guy on Twitter who critiques right-wing fashion?
Workwear?
Yeah, so I can't speak to it, but
So per Wikipedia, Steve Malloy is the founder and editor of JunkScience.com. And his career has been spent disputing the science government agencies rely on for protecting the public.
Right. Yeah, so you'll see a lot of that here, and that's why Laura Ingraham brought him on, because yesterday and into today, tens of millions of people in the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic were essentially under air quality alerts, and the severity here in New York City was as bad as it got, I think, in the country. We had an AQI of 484.
Yeah, off the charts, like at 300, I think, is where they say, like, hey, it's hazardous to be outside.
Yeah, and other areas surrounding the city also had some really hazardous air quality. Apparently,
Well, let's see. I'm sorry, she's taking a little longer here. Let's skip to the Ingram.
Look, the air is ugly, it's unpleasant to breathe, and for a lot of people, they get anxiety over it. But the reality is there's no health risk. Okay, there's research, they've done lots of
Look at that. There's no health risk. Just breathe it in. Look at that photo. There's no health risk there.
So, as you can see, to support my very important story about the teacher room, that's what was pouring through the window, people. It's really been creepy, and it's really been hard to breathe when you go outside.
Yeah, well, and this is, people don't understand, because I've been in this kind of stuff. That's midday. That's not dusk. That's like noon. It looks like that.
Right.
That's how thick that shit is in the air.
And let's remember, it's June. Noon in June is usually really bright. And that's like noon, what it looks like in June.
Yeah.
That looks like some dusk stuff. And I have to tell you,
We're saying it's like that in June and...
Oh, yeah. It had that sort of, creepy campfire smell going on as you're just walking down the street, trying to get whatever part of your commute done you were supposed to. It smelled like campfire. New York City streets are not supposed to smell like campfire.
No.
Or be orange and hazy.
No. They're supposed to smell like raw sewage.
Not.
Just the back alleys.
If we were through a monitor, I'd throw something at you.
Research on asthmatics, on elderly asthmatics, on children, on elderly with heart disease. Not a call for a wheeze from any of them.
What the fuck?
In India and China all the time. No public health emergency.
Speaking of, do you notice, like, in all the coverage of Bill Ware, the tailpipes, all this stuff, they never ever mention the fact at the top that China is the number one polluter in the world. Never.
Yeah, this hold on
though. But that's the thing is okay.
Okay, so now we're switching to China.
But let's talk about this. Have you ever seen photos of Beijing? Everybody's wearing a mask because the air is so freaking bad. They go through those N95 masks and filtered masks like they're free in China.
Okay, but this is also sort of a ridiculous argument. First of all, they weren't really directly saying that it is worse in China. They were just saying China is the biggest issue for polluting. But even if the point was that it's worse in China, okay, so it's worse in China, so it's not currently dangerous in New York City.
Right.
This logic does not work. It can be bad in China and bad in New York City.
Right.
And it can be dangerous in both places.
Right.
I can't stand it when they use that kind of logic on you. They just try to do a bait and switch sort of situation.
Right. It's that the argument is basically, well, you both have cancer, but one of you has cancer worse. So the other one doesn't really have cancer.
Your cancer is a real cancer because that other guy's cancer is worse.
Yeah.
No, they're both cancer and they're both bad.
They're both bad. But yeah. But it's like, I just think it's funny, but it's like, Why would you? Okay, it's such an easy story to do, right? Yeah, there's an air quality alert. It's dangerous. You let people know, right? But instead, we got to bring on a climate denier to sit there. No, it's not bad at all. What was the point? I mean, it's just I don't know what's going on. I think they're just trying to be contrary for the sake of being contrary on Fox anymore. I don't know what it is. Let's see, though. Let's get a little rest of this guy's moronic thing here. But yeah, it's such a stupid. I mean, look how fucking bad that you got that in the background. She has to know this is in the background. She has to be able to see the monitors, right? Laura Ingraham. This guy has to be able to see him. You're looking at this and saying it's not that bad.
Speaking of, dude,
sorry, just pause it real quick. No public.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is
emergency. That is a political choice to ignore the actual impacts. Okay, go ahead.
All the coverage of Bill Ware, the tailpipes, all this stuff. They never ever mention the fact at the top that China is the #1 polluter.
Oh, we already gone through that.
Yeah, this is like clean air in China. I mean, it's really bad. In the winter, they never turn on their scrubber.
Yeah, let's.
Is it a health?
You guys, my package of food cannabis just arrived. These are THC infused.
We'll close that one for now. So stupid. It was I couldn't believe it.
And their little title across it said "Climate Cult."
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. You know what? I am on Team Earth.
Right.
I like trees. I don't care. I really am into all of that. Whatever that means you want to call me, that's cool. And you can call some people extreme, but it is not extreme to think that hazy orange air is not good for you. And just because that might be, and I don't know if this is true, but if that might be a good day in China, again, does not mean it's healthy.
No, and we'll talk more about we'll do this in a later episode where we'll talk more about some of the economics of climate change and how businesses are looking at it, because there's no major business or corporation on the planet that doesn't recognize climate change and doesn't recognize it as a future problem. Right. And climate change is, people for COVID-19, part of that was a result of climate change. Had the temperatures not been as hot as they were in China, probably would not have been a breeding ground for that virus. But since temperatures have gone up, that's been a problem. So we're going to see more diseases, more hurricanes, more tornadoes. We've already seen a bunch. I mean, we see them all the time now. Used to be like these were once in a century hurricanes, and it's like you see one now every couple of years. But yep, so that was that. But speaking of hurricanes and people who know how to predict them, Pat Robertson, the infamous TV pastor, one of the most famous, largest watched Christian pastors on earth, syndicated all over the world. He's dead. Yep. So he's down in hell playing pinochle with Hitler and Mussolini, his good buddies.
How old was he again? 90-something?
93.
He was pretty old. 95, 94?
He was 93. But yep, so he died. And we're just going to go through. This was the Young Turks, and they just wanted to go through some of the things about his past and horrible shit he said. So here we go. We're going to watch some of them cover this.
Televangelist and longtime friend of the show, Pat Robertson, has died at the young age of 93. The cause of death was that he was 93. But in all seriousness, his family confirmed that he has passed away, but they did not give a reason for his passing. Obviously, he was up there in age. Now, before we get to some details about his life, how he became a prominent force within the evangelical movement, why don't we remember him for who he really was?
What is this Mac and cheese, is that a black thing?
It is a black thing, Pat.
You might get AIDS in Kenya. The people have AIDS. You got to be careful. I mean, the towels can have AIDS. And the Bible says, if any man will not work, let him not eat. Now, that didn't say, if any man will not work, let him go to the soup kitchen and let the government pick up the tab. Something happened a long time ago in Haiti. They got together and swore a pact to the devil. They said, we will serve you if you'll get us free from the French. I'm talking about the cheating. He cheated on you. Well, he's a man. Okay. There are a bunch of people who are just bums, and if these people are out drugging themselves, let them starve to death.
Let them starve to death. Let them eat cake. Pat Robertson.
No, he says don't let him eat anything.
No. What I love is, Haiti, for those of you who don't know this, Haiti is, I mean, there'd been country like the Persians had done this before, where they, like, you'd have a king or a prince that would rescind slavery for some period of time, but always come back. The first country to have absolutely no slavery and to make slavery illegal was Haiti. And what happened was there was a massive slave uprising on that island, and they pushed all the French out. Now, what he's saying is that slave uprising was the black people, the slaves, making a deal with the devil to get rid of the French. And they would have been better off if they'd have just continued to be slaves. I don't get it.
We obviously didn't watch enough of that clip to get to what he thought his point was, but my brain isn't even coming up with what he thought his point was, other than he wanted to say deal with the devil.
Yeah, I think that was his point. I mean, is that somehow that slavery was a good thing or whatnot? I don't know exactly. I will say one of my favorites of his was, and Stephen Colbert did a bit on this, was what he did blame one of the hurricanes on, like, abortion laws. I think it was Katrina, because the people of New Orleans had everything to do with abortion laws, federal abortion laws, right? But then he also, I think he was another hurricane he blamed on, was it gay marriage when that was going on? And Stephen Colbert did the best bit on his show at the time where he did, yeah, and he's absolutely right. Because, see, what you don't understand is how this works. What happens is you have gay cruises out in the Caribbean, and all that steamy, hot man-on-man action goes up into the atmosphere, and it makes angels cry, and that's where the rain comes from. And that's what causes hurricanes. People don't understand how important gays are to the water cycle.
I don't even know where you would make that shit up, but that's the funniest thing.
Well, because how else does that work?
Rainbows.
The gay people cause hurricanes.
Yeah. Sometimes you just hear this stuff and you go,
oh God! But he was a total monster. Let's see. I got a couple more little clips here where they talk about him. We'll do these real quick.
By the way, that AIDS from towels thing.
Oh God, that was a good one.
From towels. So, like, let's be paranoid about everybody's freaking hand towels and stuff. My God.
Yeah. Plus, it's a bloodborne disease, so it's usually passed as an STD or by you swapping blood with somebody
or whatever.
Yeah. You can't really get it from a towel. I mean, if you share a razor with somebody who has AIDS, you could potentially get it, right? If they cut themselves, you cut yourself, right? But yeah, that
seems pretty unlikely.
Yeah.
The impact it had here in the United States, but apparently that show was carried internationally. So
by the way, she's got a good point. That show was premiered everywhere. That was an international show, the 700 Club that he hosted.
Yeah, he was a host. You know what? I grew up in a conservative state. You'd walk into people's places, and there would be a whole lot of 700 Club going on.
Yeah, it's like CNN.
The 700 Club, a casual talk show that combined hard right politics, faith healing, and lifestyle news, broadcast in dozens of languages and in more than 200 countries. I didn't know about that. The show made Reverend Robertson the world's most watched TV preacher, which, given what he would say is pretty terrifying. Now, Robertson often predicted doom for those he deemed insufficiently righteous and attributed natural disasters and other calamities to perceived political and moral failings. For instance, when Hurricane Katrina struck the Gulf Coast in 2005, he suggested the storm was God's punishment for legal abortion.
So that's the big thing about Pat Robertson, is he was one of the guys that melded right-wing conservative politics with Christian evangelicals and pushed for that. And he pushed for that hard, to make Christian evangelicals conservatives and part of that right-wing movement. And it was...
Sure, if you can get your religious views attached to a political party, then you suddenly give political power to your religion,
right?
Which, if you luck out, you can get policies to go the direction of what your morality is.
Well, right, and it's great when you're the preacher, then you're the guy interpreting the will of God. When you can ventriloquize a God and these people all believe in it and believe they should follow it, then anything you spew out of your mouth is good. I mean, this is the kind of shit that led to Trump. This is the kind of shit that led to the political party now with the right wing, where they just say whatever. Oh yeah, the smoke's not going to hurt you in New York, right? They just say whatever, and people believe it. But that was his whole legacy. They also talk about his run for president. I don't know if you remember this when he ran against.
What year was that?
2000. He ran against H.W. Bush in the primary. He lost the primary.
I did not remember that.
Yeah, but remember when he came in, everybody was, was like he had the most money backing him. What ended up happening is he was a Korean war vet, and a bunch of guys that served with him that were Marines came out and flat out said, no, he lied about his record. So he lied about being a hero in the Korean War. And that's what killed his presidential campaign. He eventually just dropped out. And that's when Bush won. But yeah. So yeah, it was just a horrible guy. So we're not saying we're glad he's dead. We're not saying we get any pleasure out of knowing that he's no longer alive. Okay, next story.
I will say sincere condolences to his family,
sure,
because I'm sure they're going through a rough time, sure, and I can very much mean that. And then I'll just move on.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to show my lack of pleasure. So, speaking of things that Pat Robertson hates, gay people. So, the Human Rights Campaign was one of the biggest supporters of the LGBTQ movement. They just declared states of emergency for LGBTQ Americans. And we're going to look at this real quick. This is CBS New York.
The country's largest LGBTQ plus civil rights group is sounding the alarm tonight, saying their community is in a nationwide state of emergency.
CBS 2's Jessica Moore reports on the laws and boycotts prompting the declaration. In the middle of what should be a joyous month celebrating Pride, the Human Rights Campaign just issued a first-of-its-kind emergency declaration for the LGBTQ plus community. HRC President Kelly Robinson saying, quote, "The multiplying threats facing millions in our community are not just perceived, they are real, tangible, and dangerous." The HRC pointed to 75 laws in more than a dozen states specifically targeting LGBTQ plus rights, like those banning drag, gender-affirming care, inclusive education, and those preventing transgender athletes from competing in sports. And while New York is considered LGBTQ plus friendly, according to the HRC, activist Marty Cummings says his community isn't completely safe here either.
You had the people who were murdered from nightclubs. You have Drag Story Hour, where brown boys are showing up pretty violently at a family-friendly event.
Major retailers and brands like Target and Budweiser have lost billions of dollars in profits and stock value and faced massive boycotts over inclusive products and spokespeople. The HRC also issued a guidebook for LGBTQ plus Americans to know their rights and access help and safety resources, including a graph showing...
So, yeah, just a ton of that. We covered that last time about the businesses. Once again, we don't know how much of that is because they're being boycotted. That's, it could be, could not be. We don't know for sure. But yeah, just, you think of it as, that's a lot of bills coming out, a lot of anti-LGBT stuff. I mean, it's just going backwards.
Yeah. It's going backwards, and really, not to overly simplify, but the people that are so against the gay and lesbian community are not really impacted by it. Like, I don't understand why you're going to be railing so hard against something that really doesn't impact you. If you are not identifying as any part of the community, you don't have to interact with the community much, except just like, you walk by somebody at a grocery store, but you really don't have to do anything. So it's just hard to even understand the point.
Well, it's a culture war issue. So the idea is we need to rile up for conservatives, any sort of semi-fascist group. You got to rile up your base, but you got to give them something to hate. You got to give them an enemy, right? And it's ideal if the enemy is somebody who's A, weaker than you, and B, already it seems a little taboo to the kind of people you're talking to, right? Because a lot of these people don't know a lot of openly gay people. A lot of these people have never met a trans person, right? And for them, it's this, they're told all this crap like, oh yeah, really, they're all pedophiles. There's an agenda in the, like, for teachers, right? This is the big thing with school boards. There's an agenda in the school to turn your kid gay or turn your kid trans.
Which the school has literally no reason to care about any of that.
No. Well, and part of what that is they've seen, okay, well, just the number of people who are out as gay and trans has drastically gone up, especially over the last decade, right? And so they're thinking that's because you guys are, not you guys, the gay people or the trans people are creating all these new...
Right. Really, nothing is being created. It's just that schools and various other public places have presented themselves as safe spaces for people to be able to come out of the shadows and into the light. Yeah. It's not creating anything. It's just allowing something to be out in the open that was never allowed to be before.
Yeah, it's like when we stopped forcing everybody to be right-handed, more people reported being left-handed.
Right.
And then it flattened out after a while. It wasn't because we were creating more left-handed people. It's because now they were free to be left-handed. They didn't have to hide in the shadows. They didn't have to be scared. But that's part of what this movement is to try and scare them back into the shadows. And that's, that's what that whole push is. There's a lot of push to that. You got to remember, too, this stuff all goes back a while. Like, I did some extra research into this, and I didn't know how deep we wanted to go. I wasn't going to go too deep, but I was kind of interested in, like, I went back and I didn't know this, that homosexuality was considered a psychological illness until 1972. and then they backed off that. And then you're reading studies in like the 80s, and they're basically saying that, you know, your child is 12 times more likely to be sexually assaulted by a homosexual. And then what ended up happening was those got revised in the 90s, going, well, no, it's a pedophile, which is different from a homosexual. They're very different things, right? A homosexual is only attracted to other adults that are homosexuals like them, right? They're the same sex as they are. Homosexuals are not attracted to children. Pedophiles are attracted to children.
These are completely separate things.
Completely separate things. And you ever notice how most pedophiles are conservative? And I don't think that's because they want to be. I think that's because those kids tend to be the most naive. They don't have sex ed training. They don't know that they're being taken advantage of or groomed. That's this whole so all this push is really just to try and push these people back in the closet. And it's, and it's not going to work. Not at this point.
No.
Especially
since you can't expect people to go backwards. You really can't.
Well, not just that. I mean, you can, but here's the deal: is not in the age of social media, right? Not in this age where you turn on TV and there are gay people on TV, gay characters on TV all the time, right? You turn on TV, you see more Asian people, you see more black people. It's not like when you watched in the 90s, you watched Friends, right? And I think they only ever had one black person on Friends. It's like, okay, they can get a monkey, but they can't find a black person in New York.
Yeah, it's super weird.
Yeah, that show was, I mean, I don't think it meant to be racist, but that's what it was like back then. It was all white people. Now it's very different. And I think they're upset about it. In Disney, you have the Little Mermaid is a black woman. People were all upset about that. My favorite bit about that was people were bitching about, well, she couldn't be black because the pigmentation of her skin, because she'd be too deep under the water to get any sunlight, so she'd have to be white. And I'm like, that's what's throwing you? Not the fact that she's half human, half fish. That's not throwing you. It's her skin color that's throwing you. We're already in the realm of fantasy, man. Who gives a shit what skin color she has?
Yeah, we're worried about the fact behind skin pigmentation underwater, but we're just going to overlook the half human, half
fish
thing.
When the magical squid or what was it, Ursula, the octopus lady who gives her legs with magic. Yeah, we're already in that realm, and you're thrown by the fuck. I mean, Jesus. She talks to a flounder. I mean, oh gosh. All right. Well, we'll move on from that stuff. But yeah, so with the gay warning in Florida, things were bad, but Florida's gotten bad too. And DeSantis looks like he's in some not so happy positions here. So let's see. Here's the David Pakman show. And DeSantis is having some problems.
There's some very, very bad news for Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. His approval is collapsing as the anti-woke movement is in a free fall in the United States. So let's back it up. I already told you that anti-woke may be a very silly approach to the 2024 presidential campaign. And we are seeing loss after loss after loss for the anti-woke movement. In the last 10 days...
So he's got a good point there. DeSantis has pushed a lot of these anti-gay bills. Right? It's part of his big feud with Disney. And what's happened? It's tanking him in the polls. It's not working out. Not working out the way they want. And it's gotten even worse. We just wanted to touch that with David Pakman. Here's back to the majority report. Here is Florida Republicans because now we had that thing before with the immigrants, right, where they passed this draconian immigration bill, which goes into effect July 1st. And a bunch of immigrants have now fled Florida for other states because they're afraid of getting deported, right? Here are Florida politicians in Florida trying to explain and beg these people to stay.
Here it is. Here's the first guy is this is Rick
Roth.
Yeah.
This bill is 100% supposed to scare you. Y la mala noticia es que este proyecto de ley 100% tiene el propósito de darles miedo. I'm a farmer, and the farmers are mad as hell. Yo soy un agricultor y los agricultores están bien bravos. We are losing employees. They're already starting to move to Georgia and other states. Estamos perdiendo empleados y se están mudando a otros estados como Georgia. It's urgent that you talk to all your people and convince them that you have resources, state representatives, and other people that can explain the bill to you. Es suficiente que ustedes hablen con sus personas porque tenemos representantes estatales que pueden explicar.
All right, so here's what's going on. So he's talking about, because he's a farmer too, and a politician. Here's what's happening though. In the bill, all right, let's say I'm a farmer or I own a construction business and I have a bunch of undocumented immigrants that work for me. I have to go on to E-Verify, which is online, verify their documentation before I can allow them to work. If I fail to do that, right, it's $1,000 fine per person, per incident.
So, I'm thinking here, now, if you fail to do that, you get all of these fines.
Mm-hmm.
If you had been, to some degree, relying on undocumented labor, it was probably costing you less money.
Oh, yeah.
And right now, I'm going to table whether or not that is fair. We're going to just set that wage situation to the side for a minute. But that was probably saving you, as the business owner, quite a bit of money compared to what it would cost you to hire documented labor for the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Thousands of dollars a year per person.
If somebody is going to be operating on this platform, you would have to stop and consider what this was doing to your wallet, regardless of how you felt about immigrants or not, or any of that. You have to really stop and think as a business owner, wait a minute, my cost of labor, assuming I can even hire those positions in the form of documented labor, assuming I can get them all hired, how much more is that going to cost me?
Right. Well, on top of that fact, even if it costs me more, there are certain things like, okay, I'm a farmer. I need people out there picking the berries or the whatever it is, the fruits, right? Because a lot of it has to be done by hand, especially like orchard work, stuff like that. So oranges, for example, in Florida, it's a big deal, right? So I got to have immigrants out there picking oranges. So how many documented American workers can I get to come out and do that for $7.25 an hour? Probably none. Even if I was paying $25 an hour, would I still be able to fill quota?
I mean, you might get a few people, because there are always people who are like, I really need some
money, yeah,
money, right? And so I wouldn't say that would be zero, but I think you would struggle to get enough people to do those jobs, and in order to get people doing them, you would have to probably pay them more, and you would still probably get less people to work there.
Right.
So it feels to me like that would be a very dangerous platform, even for, a conservative to really want to be utilizing.
So it's a rock and a hard place, because here's what it is. It's DeSantis, I'm going to run for president and do my culture war nonsense, which we just saw that little clip of, right? And he's doing that, and so he's going to placate to the base. And who is his base? The Trump base. It's predominantly white people. They don't like immigrants. They don't like gay people. So we're going to do things that harm those communities, right? Or restrict those communities. So I'm going to do these draconian laws and pass them, right? So I look tough on immigration, right? And now that I've done it, all the business owners are going, fuck. They literally stopped and went, fuck. How am I going to get people? Because people are now fleeing the state. And what they're doing right now is they're saying, don't run, right? Talk to your workers, because essentially we're going to do what Arizona and Arkansas did when they passed these kinds of laws years ago. Was they did it. They also realized it would destroy their state economically, right? And what did they do? They just said, okay, we passed the laws, so the base is happy, but now we're just not going to enforce them. We're going to pretend like they're not there. So they don't really enforce any of their immigration laws. They just have them on the books to keep the base happy. And that's what's going on right here. So we'll listen to a little bit more of this, because that's essentially what's going on.
We had the best president in my life in the last 30 years, and I'm still supporting Donald Trump. I love my governor. He's the greatest governor. He's the greatest governor.
The big question would be then, if
you voted for it,
yeah, why would you maybe you just don't vote the bill so you don't have to explain to migrants that they'll be okay. Just trust your boss here in Florida.
Because that's all they got.
Oh man.
So I looked this up. So what Florida is expecting is, if a lot of these immigrants leave, which it looks like they are, and they pass these laws pass, which they're going to, they've already passed, but once they go into effect, Florida is looking at losing a minimum of $18 billion from their economy in 1 year, just this year. $18 billion off the top of their economy.
Wow.
Well, we went through this last time, man. 20% of their workforce are undocumented immigrants. You know, they say 1 in 2 Floridians lives with an undocumented immigrant. I mean, it's insane. Like if you bring an undocumented immigrant over the border, it's a felony in Florida now. It's a C felony. You can do time. You look at the minimum 90 days, right? So let's say your boyfriend is an undocumented and you guys go on vacation and then you fly back, you could be charged.
All because my boyfriend didn't have papers.
Maybe it's your husband and he just didn't have papers yet and you guys are still waiting for him. So right now it's dangerous to be in Florida and be undocumented, because you never know when they're going to show up and deport you or arrest you just for being there. So, man, so that's DeSantis' campaign is going to crap, and the Republicans there are just desperate. Please, please.
It's all just such a sad situation.
I know, it's terrible. And that's the thing, is they don't ever appreciate the immigrants until, oh my God, they passed these laws and the immigrants stop working. And then it's, well, where are all the immigrants? Right?
Well, what do you think they are? What did you do?
Right. It reminds me of that episode of South Park where they have the bit with Border Patrol, and the immigrants here start to realize, hey, everything sucks here. Let's go back to Mexico, right? And so all the Mexicans go back to Mexico, And then Border Patrol's new assignment is to keep the immigrants from crossing the fence into Mexico because we need them to stay here and work. Because once they all decide to leave, all of a sudden everything shuts down. So the Border Patrol's like shooting at them to keep them within the fence.
Ultimately, if things don't shut down, what is that going to do to the price of orange juice or whatever?
Oh, God,
You know
everything.
what I mean? So if the person that owns this business has to increase the wages because they have to get their labor in a different way, they're going to try to make up their profits somewhere.
Oh, yeah. Things are going to go up.
What's going to translate into it, people are going to be like, why am I paying $8 for Tropicana orange juice?
Yeah, how come eggs are so expensive? Yeah.
Right. I used to be able to get this for like $4. Granted, that was the sale price, but even not on sale, it wasn't more than $5, and now it's $8. Well, why do you think it's going to be $8?
Right. Yeah, a lot of the immigration stuff is we can just do a better system with the courts and getting immigration taken care of, and a lot of it doesn't need to be dealt with the courts. A lot of it you could just use social workers. I don't know why we need to go through a court system. You know, it's all disgusting shit to me. Maybe one day we can do a clip on watching some of these. Like they'll have kids as young as like 2 and 3 defend themselves without a lawyer in immigration court.
That's insane.
Oh, and the judges are sitting there just shaking their heads like, because the kid has no idea what a court is, what an attorney is. They have no idea that they're there for a deportation hearing.
Yeah, they don't even know what that all means. They don't know what deportation is.
A lot of times they'll ask the kids, what country are you from? They don't know. They're 3.
I couldn't have answered that when I was 3.
What?
I couldn't have answered that when I was 3.
Yeah.
You know what? When I was 5 years old and in kindergarten, I didn't even know my legal first name. When they told me what it was, I was like, no, you're kidding me, because it's not, Alacius is not what my family calls me.
Yeah, nobody called you.
Nobody calls me Alacius. Professionally, and I write as Alacius, but nobody calls me that.
Right.
So I was a 5-year-old being like, are you kidding me? Yeah. Let alone trying to ask me a bunch of like questions about what country I'm from and citizenship. I would have been like,
do you have an attorney? Do you know what an attorney is? Do you know why you're here? Do you know what deportation is?
Yeah, it all would have been a big fat question mark.
No. A lot of these kids, they'll sit there and they'll ask them, do you know what country you want to be deported to? And they'll say like, I have a red balloon. Because that's how a 3-year-old, yeah. I don't know, but I got a red balloon. Yeah, we can go through that one day. It's pretty horrible. But let's end this one last story. Dave Ramsey, good friend of Gossip Finance, loves us to death. We know. Unfortunately, Dave's being sued for $150 million.
Wow. Okay, so how'd that come about?
Well, let's see. What does it say? ABC 6. I think they're Tennessee. Come on, ABC 6.
One of the biggest names in the world of personal finance has now been hit with a $150 million lawsuit. Dave Ramsey, a lifelong Tennessean, is accused of giving his listeners some bad advice as they tried to get rid of their timeshares. The plaintiffs say that they were scammed by the Timeshare Exit Team, which was at one time promoted on Ramsey's syndicated talk show. The attorneys involved in the case claim Ramsey was paid more than $30 million for his endorsement.
Uh-oh.
The Timeshare Exit Team went out of business last year. We've reached out to Ramsey Solutions for comment and still waiting for a reply.
And they're not gonna.
So, I wish I knew more detail about this, because I've heard him talk about Timeshare Exit Team.
Yeah. Sorry.
I've heard him talk about Timeshare Exit Team before, and I have to be honest, I completely understand why people want out of those timeshares, because they're really their money sucks for sure.
Yes, some of them are really bad. There are some that aren't so bad, but
there's a lot of really bad programs, and people really struggle to get out of them. And some of the fees associated with them are not what people realized they were signing up for. So I don't blame them getting out of there. But I guess I wondered what was going on with timeshare exit team. That was fraudulent, or what?
Oh, I'll tell you.
With them, what was the situation with them, and then how does that trickle over to Ramsey having responsibility? Like, did he know about?
So what they did was they charged these people, and they said, "Okay, you pay us, we'll get you out of your timeshare, whatever the fee is, and then if we can't get you out of the timeshare, we'll refund your money." But what they did was some of these people paid them anywhere between $6,000 to $72,000 to get out of these timeshares, and they just delayed, never got them out, never refunded their money. They just sort of strung them along and jerked them off. Now, 17 people filed the lawsuit against Dave Ramsey because that's how they got hooked up with this company, who's now they went bankrupt, but they've changed their name and they've rebranded. And I think they're called Reed Hine now, LLC. And I'm sure they're doing similar shit. But that's what's going on. Now, where is Dave Ramsey culpable? Well, here's the deal. So if you're sitting on air and you're claiming to be a financial expert or a financial guru, even though those aren't real things, typically you don't have any liability if you give bad advice, right? If you're a financial advisor or somebody, and you have fiduciary. If I give advice on this show, which is why we don't ever give advice, we just talk about situations. But if I give advice, then I have a liability for it. So Dave can sit up there and do that shit all day. Here's where it gets sketchy. And this is where he's in kind of hot water. If he gets on the show as a financial expert and he recommends this company, but he doesn't disclose that he's getting paid millions of dollars by them, he's now committed fraud under the Consumer Protection Act.
So in what manner would he need to be disclosing this?
So he would either need to be doing it as an advertisement, in which case there would be a disclosure usually on the bottom of the screen, right? So it would be a separate advertisement that he's a spokesperson for such and such, right? It'd need to be clear. Or he could do it as like a radio host does and say, okay, this is a sponsor. Let me tell you about the sponsor.
By calling him a sponsor or by calling himself a spokesperson. So if I identified myself as a spokesperson for blankety blank, or I identify them as a sponsor.
Sure.
But what he tended to say, and anybody here can, correct me in the comments, but from when I heard him, what he would tend to say is our friends over at the timeshare exit
right.
team.
You need to go talk to them and
right.
And he'd individually recommend it.
Say, I'm a spokesperson, and he didn't say they're a sponsor. He would just say our friends over at, which doesn't necessarily make you clearly know if that makes him their spokesperson or if he just has relationships with people over there,
No,
can't tell.
It sounds like he's making a financial recommendation.
It does sound like he's making a financial recommendation, but what I'm saying, I'm more hitting the point of it. The way that he would say that didn't feel clear to me that they are a sponsor.
Right. That's where he got.
That part's vague.
I'm trying to differentiate two things. If I make a go buy blah de blah product, right? Or go, to that blah de blah firm and they'll help you out with this. If I'm making that recommendation and that firm screws them over, I'm liable under financial rules, under FINRA. I can get fined by the Financial Regulation Agency, right? I haven't broken any laws, but I can lose my licenses. I can get in trouble, right? Because that's all handled through these private companies, right? Financial Regulation Agency, which is overseen by the Security Exchange Commission, right? So I can get in a lot of trouble. Now, if, because I have licenses, I have those professional ties. Dave doesn't have any licenses or responsibilities in finance. So he can make bullshit recommendations all day, every day, and he does. And we go through them a lot. But where he's hurt is if you're taking money under the Consumer Financial Protection Agency, if you're taking money and you're making recommendations under the guise of a financial planner or expert, you are willfully deceiving the consumer. And now you can be sued. That's what he did. And since he took money from them, and like you said, he never disclosed that he was taking money from them. And he could have just said, they're sponsors. He could have said, I'm a spokesperson for them. He could have put a disclosure on the bottom of the screen. That's all he had to do. A little disclosure down here.
The Timeshare Exit Team is one of the sponsors of today's program.
That's
or
it.
Something, right. Those two words feel key to me.
Mm-hmm.
Self-identifying as a spokesperson or identifying the entity as a sponsor tells me as the consumer that there is some sort of a technical business arrangement that they have.
There's a bias.
Right.
I'm getting paid to say this, as opposed to I'm just saying this because, it's like if I sit there and go, gee, I really love M&Ms. And I'm not getting paid to say that. I'm just a happy customer. I could say that all day.
I use them and they work for me.
Yeah. M&Ms are great.
Snack of choice.
Yeah. I can say that. But if M&M's paying me to say it, I need to specify that. Right. Or we need to do it as a separate commercial, not part of our show. Right. If we do it as part of our show, we got to say, hey, today's show is being sponsored by M&M's. This is how great M&M's are.
Right.
They come in green and red and blue and yellow and orange.
You're making me want some M&M's.
I don't.
If you would like to sponsor some of our shows and send us samples so we can say which our favorite M&Ms are.
Yeah.
Right into it.
M&M's
right there.
Yeah, we'll sponsor it. We'll sponsor M&M's. You can sponsor us. Sorry. Yeah. Send us some free M&M's. No. They need to sponsor us. They got all that chocolatey money.
And send us some products.
Send us some products. Absolutely, send us products.
Remind ourselves which version of M&Ms we like the best.
Because I can't remember. Is it the mint ones or the peanut ones? Is it just the plain ones?
Those peanut butter ones.
The peanut butter, the almond ones.
You know what? I am into the peanut butter ones and the almond ones.
The almond ones are really
good.
And
I like the dark chocolate ones because I'm way more into dark chocolate than milk chocolate. Less sweet, more cocoa. Sand. But M&Ms, we want new fuel.
Yeah, that was a total tangent there. But yes, M&Ms, call us. We're here for you. Anyway, no, but Dave Ramsey, he's screwed on this one. That's why they're not making a comment. He's going to either have to settle out or something. But this is a bad one. So this one,
You know what? I'm going to be really honest. I actually kind of hate that that's happening because it was so easily avoidable. And gosh, this is a real screw up in terms of his staff over there because they should have had him covered in terms of, some sort of disclaimer about this being, a corporate sponsor or whatever, because it was so easy to avoid.
It's not just that. It's the lawsuit when they fired the woman for being pregnant. And they fired the other woman for being gay, right? Which you legally can't do. And then those women sued and they settled out for quite a bit of money. But I think that's they've been, because they're not licensed, because they're not actual financial advisors, because they've never had any training or experience, they're just spewing shit. They're just, most of them are broadcasting. That's what their expertise is in. So they're so used to being able to spew crap without any real consequence and do what they want, especially Ramsey. and just pay people off when he has to. That I just think they've been so careless for so long. This was bound to happen. I'm surprised it didn't happen sooner. Because he does. There was the one where did we look at that? We could probably look at that later. There was the he pushes the mortgages with no credit check.
Oh yeah, I think the company is called Churchill or something that he likes, where they do manual underwriting is their process. Right? He talks about it a lot.
Which is extremely expensive and usually a much higher interest rate. But they don't disclose that when he recommends them. And if you go to that bank's website, then you go to the mortgages, the first page that comes up when you do the manual underwriting mortgage is, "Welcome, Dave Ramsey viewers."
Oh, wow.
But he never discloses that they're paying him. Yeah, he makes a lot of money doing that, but he never discloses it. Which is, I think, it's unlawful. It's also careless. But that's how we talk about it every week. People get screwed by Dave Ramsey on a regular basis, and everybody's like, well, no, they're trying to help people. Really? Then why is he getting sued for $150 million for recommending bad shit? Because these people lost a lot of money.
It's sad to me thinking about those people, regardless of the Ramsey involvement level, these people thinking this company is going to get them out of something that's already screwing them, and then they give money to this other company that's just sitting there holding their money, not getting them out of the other situation that's screwing them. So they're actually being financially screwed over 2 times instead of just the one.
Yep. They just got double teamed. Why? Because they listened to and trusted Dave Ramsey, and that's why we make fun of him on almost every episode. Is because this guy is dangerous, and statistically, I don't know that he helps more people than he hurts.
Hard to know.
Well, it's impossible to know because they don't. There's no way to get the numbers.
Right.
But the bottom line is, we do know that people actively get hurt by listening to him. So it is what it is. It is what it is. Anyway, that was kind of our show for today. Appreciate everybody for coming. Sorry to see you go.
Thank you very much for tuning into our bonus episode. The news went so wild, we had to jump in and have our commentary on it right away.
Yeah,
we couldn't wait till our next filming date.
Yeah, too much shit going on. Anyway, where can everybody catch you, Lace?
As always, you can catch me at mysensewithsense.com for articles, information about workshops, information about my coaching program. If you want to write in about any of those, or you want to see us talk about certain topics, got some clips you want to send us, or if you want to take Duncan up on his challenge to come on and talk to us, please email us. Duncan, where can they email us?
You can email us at gossipfinancead@outlook.com. It's going to be down below. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we will catch you next time. Thanks, Lace.